So I've been given the go-ahead to talk shit by Glenn. This is his engine room. So hi Glenn.
Right.
Where are you? Can't see him, there he is. Been given the go-ahead. This is my GRB short block I'm putting together here. It's an EJ207 and we're halfway through the build, approximately. I am just checking that the rings are going to fit and be of adequate clearance. I'm referencing the factory manual here, which gives us information from Subaru what the clearances should be. Before installing the piston rings onto the piston, we need to check the piston ring end gap. Now this is a pretty simple procedure where we want to make sure the gap at the end of the piston ring is of a suitable distance. This is to allow for heat expansion so that the piston ring ends don't touch and shatter the ring. So here we have the specs. We start by placing the ring just at the top of the bore that we're going to install that particular ring into. We then use a piston that's had the second ring installed on it to slide that piston down to a nice even depth, and this makes sure that the ring is nice and square. I grab the feeler gauge then and measure the piston ring end gap. So I've just checked out the very first ring gap and it is pretty much bang on where I want it, which is awesome. It means I don't have to file anything, just fire these piston rings in onto the piston and we're away. Just a little note, I am using genuine Subaru piston rings. I know these are going to be really good quality because they are made by Subaru and they've been working perfectly in the motor already, so we know they're going to seal well, perform well and stand the test of time. Just check the second ring gap and it is pretty much bang on as well where we want it, so another one we're just going to be able to fire into the hole. With this build I found that every single piston ring was gapped correctly out of the box, and this is quite common when you are using standard size bores and OE pistons. Installing the piston rings onto the pistons is a little bit of an arduous task. You have to make sure that you wrap the ring around the piston and slide it into the groove without breaking it. You wouldn't want to do that. I'm just chucking the rings on now, and one thing you need to be super careful of is not breaking the rings. Like I've just done there. It's a broken ring. Broken ring. Luckily I've got a box of old and new rings that I was able to score one from, but you probably don't have that, so be very, very careful in the way you put them on. I keep referring back to the service manual just to make sure that I'm doing everything absolutely spot on. There's some instructions here about aligning the upper rail spin stopper and the piston, and I'll show you what that is. There's a small hole machined in the piston, and the upper oil ring has this little tang or barb that sits in that hole. If you're not familiar with the design of piston rings, there are 3 of them, and the bottom one is made up of 3 components. The top we have the first compression ring, then we have the second compression ring, which are the top 2, and then moving down the piston we have the oil control ring. These pistons are almost ready to be put in the hole. The only thing they need to be done now is lubricated and have the rings positioned in the exact way that they need to go in. You don't want the gaps on these pistons to line up, otherwise that can cause issues like blow-by, and the compression basically being able to seep between the rings if they're aligned. Again, we'll refer to the service manual to find out the exact positions the rings should be in. Now the rings are installed, but before the piston rings are compressed and the piston is installed into the block, we must lubricate the pistons so that when the engine is first started up, there's a nice amount of oil there to provide lubrication when the rings are dragging up and down the cylinder. It's pretty simple. I just use an oiling can and then move the rings about back and forth, up and down, to ensure that the rings are absolutely coated with oil. So I've just got my pistons all ready to throw into the motor. They are all done. What I'm going to do is lube up the bores. Unfortunately, my video camera went flat when I was installing the pistons into my engine. I'll quickly show you guys, however, how it is done. I have a piston with piston rings installed on it and a piston ring compressor. Very simply, this slides over, compresses the piston rings, and then this assembly is ready to be thrown into the block. So that's how you install a piston into the engine. You also have to align the piston and the conrod and insert the gudgeon pin. That is the pin that holds the piston to the conrod. I've already done this to all 4 of mine already. Before I go, I want to hear something from you guys out there. Let me know what sort of content you would like to see more of. Do you want to see more events? Do you want to see more of my personal build, Project 9 or nothing? Or do you want to see more how-to videos? Let me know and I will endeavour to give you what you guys want.